What's going on, guys? It's M00 Photo, and today we're gonna have a little discussion regarding the FX3 brand new update. I just got online yesterday and I saw all the hype about the FX3 Cine EI update that brings it a little closer to Sony's cinema lines now, compared to before it being, closer to the Alpha line. And by Alpha line, I mean the A7, S3, because that was its direct comparison. So today, the first thing we're going to discuss the Cine EI update, and then I'll just give you guys the specs on the cameras right now, how I have my cameras set up. And to be very clear, I'm comparing the FX3 to the FS7 once again. The FS7 has been one of Sony's biggest cinema lines that have been used in numerous movies and interviews and all sorts of shoots. So I thought, what a better camera to compare it with than one of the best, right? So right now, I get it. The FS7 is not quite on the FX9 caliber, but if we go back 2-3 years ago, the FS7 was, I would say, going neck to neck against the F55s, the I'm not gonna say Venus quite yet, but I would say the red, Scarlet, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a pretty good candidate to compare it to any cinema line out there, because we all know it's not really the camera as much, it's rather the shooter. So let's talk about the Cine EI update. I've always shot on Cine EI with my FS7. Reason being is because it gives you the best quality you can extract out of the camera. That's number one. Number two, it simplifies things. You don't have to worry about swapping and switching your ISO, but this camera comes with ND filters already. So what you do is just keep it at 2000 and pop an ND in there, and it matches your exposure pretty good. So that's how I've always shot my FS7. Now with the FX3, you have to bring variable NDs, and those can be cumbersome at times because it all depends on where you shoot. But it didn't used to be too big of an issue, because you could just bump your ISO down or bump it up, depending on your needs. Now that changes, because if you're going to be shooting at Cine EI, you can only shoot at either 8,000, well, sorry, my apologies, 800 or 12,800, which we all know at times it can be really, really impossible to do that if you do not have ND filters. Why? Because it's just too bright outside, or it's just not the proper environment to do so. So ND filters are a requirement. But Sony was selfish enough to not give us ND filters on the FX3. So how do we counter that? By bringing extra ND filters. So right now, before we start the comparison, I'm just going to give you guys the specs that I have on each camera. So on the Sony FX3, I had to write everything down here because, again, I just couldn't remember from the top of my head. I have a lot going on. But the FX3, we're on ISO 12,800, just so we can get the best possible dynamic range off of the Cine EI. And on the FS7, we're at its best ISO of 2000. For lenses, as far as lenses are concerned, we have a Sigma 2470 f2.8 on the FX3, and on the FS7 we have a Bushnell 35mm f2.8 with a Metabones time 0.71. So it's basically a vintage lens. You all know how much I love vintage lenses on these cinema cameras, so that's why I have that lens there. And I know it's not quite fair because the lenses do play a huge role on your image quality, but we'll try our best to see how close we can bring these two images together. And for the FX3, we had to apply a Tilta variable ND I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's the Tilta VND comes with its matte box, and it allows you to kind of electronically switch it. I'm not controlling it electronically right now. I'm just controlling it with manually, because you can do that as well, and it's working perfectly. So what we're gonna do right now, I'm just gonna play the footages, you know, back to back or side to side in just log, you know, just the log files, so you guys can see what they look like. If there is a, oh, and before I forget, so both cameras are on the same white balance at 5600. So I will try to correct that later on, because I think it's a little too warm in here, but we'll see how that looks once I bring it post. And the FX3 is shooting into its memory card internally, and the FS7 is shooting into an Atomos Ninja V, just because I hate bringing those XQD cards to the computer all the time. So let's just, so you guys let me know if you're noticing any difference on just the log files on both cameras right now. Take a minute to view them pretty good, and while you're viewing them, we're just going to talk about other stuff. So somebody asked me to make a video and talk about my FS7 settings, and I will try to come up with that video in the next couple of days, but for now, since I had to use the camera, you know, for some events and shoots that I had to take care of, I couldn't make the video, but that's to come pretty soon here. So if you do shoot with the FS7, it will be quite intuitive for you to tune into that video and check out some stuff. Maybe they might help you out, maybe not, but hopefully you get something out of them. So by now, I'm assuming, you know, we've all had a pretty good view comparing the two cameras in logs. So we're just gonna swap and go with the graded footage. So I always grade my footage using DaVinci Resolve 17, the studio version. I just love DaVinci. It's literally almost like using Photoshop. It almost feels like you're cheating the system, you know. So we're just gonna switch here, and I'm just gonna have you guys look at both footages and vote down there and tell me which one is which. At the end of this video, I'm gonna tell you guys, you know, which footage is which, but I'm just gonna mark camera A and camera B and tell me which camera you think it is. I'm gonna try my best to bring this as close as I possibly can. But again, remember, I'm a beginner in DaVinci. I'm not a colorist by any way, but I am aspiring to be one sometime soon. So yeah, just look at both cameras and let me know which one you think it is which. And you know, at the end of the video, you're gonna find out which camera is which. So I hope you guys really did enjoy this little comparison. Again, this video was all about comparing the Cine EI on the Sony FX3 to the Cine EI on the Sony FS7, and see how close they look alike and how far apart, you know, how many similarities and dissimilarities do they have. And then I'm just going to, at the end, I was just going to grade both footages and bring them together so we could see how close we can bring them together as well. So I really do hope, you know, you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell so you can be notified on future videos. And yeah, if you guys like this video, please vote down there. Let me know what would you guys like for me to cover next, other than the FS7 settings. I still haven't forgotten that. I'll get on that pretty soon. I just had to update the FX3 last night, and you know, that update is kind of a little tricky because I have an M1 Mac, and you know, I had to make some adjustments with my computers to make everything work. But other than that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you very much, and until next time, peace.